fear-filled exit, the fortunes of NBC's Today Show and its host Matt Lauer fell pretty fast. This week, New York Magazine's cover story you can see here takes a look inside the turmoil at the morning show, the backstage negotiations, and today's fall from #1. Joining us is the author of the cover story, Joe Hagan, the contributing editor at New York Magazine. Joe, the Today Show can't seem to get a break lately. I mean, this is now the cover of your magazine. What did you guys focus on in the piece?
Say again?
What did you guys focus on in the piece?
Well, what did we focus on in the piece, did you say?
And why did you want to make it the cover? I mean, obviously, we've been talking about the Today Show ratings and NBC's ratings for a while.
Right. Well, last week, it was in the news, Matt gave it one of his first interviews to the Daily Beast, Howard Kurtz, kind of explaining his side of, what had happened in the last year and sort of giving his inside account. And then shortly after that, there was a big New York Times cover about it, too. And I had already been working on this story for about a month. And so suddenly I had to kind of incorporate what everybody else was writing and kind of figure out, well, what's true? Was Matt Lauer's sort of version of events the definitive account of what had gone down in the last year, the reason the ratings had come down?
So what was the conclusion? What was true?
Well, I think what was true was that Matt Lauer and some of the managers at NBC News, the executive producer of the Today Show, were all kind of on the same page as to what was the problem with the show. And they had all determined early last year that Ann Curry was not working on the show. She'd only been there about 6 months when they were starting to make this determination. And so they had to very carefully kind of go about figuring out how to take her off the show. Now, this was happening at the same time that Matt Lauer was trying to negotiate his contract with NBC. So there was this very careful dance going on over how to keep Lauer at the network and take Ann Curry off of the show. And so this turned out to be really too much for these, for the executives at NBC to handle, and it kind of blew up in their face. Subsequently, you saw, I think they've lost 800,000 viewers since last year. So it's been quite a remarkable fall.
So do you put most of the blame on Ann Curry? I mean, is that really when things started to go sour? Were ratings already falling before they let her go? Is that why they decided to let her go?
That's a good point. And they were. The ratings had already been softening under Meredith Vieira, who was, much beloved. But despite that, the show was starting to get a little stale. It wasn't really evolving very quickly. And so when Meredith Vieira left rather suddenly, they had to kind of scramble to figure out what to do. They almost, they tried to bring back Katie Couric. That didn't work out. And Ann Curry was contractually obligated to get the job or she could leave the network, and so they put her in. And so that is a good point, because some people say, well, it wasn't really Ann Curry. It was just the show was slowly going down anyway. And by the way, Good Morning America was sort of getting traction the other way. So, and one thing I would note in the reporting that I thought was really fascinating was early last year, NBC conducted some internal research that showed it wasn't really Ann Curry per se that was taking the ratings down, but that viewers noticed that Matt Lauer himself didn't look as sort of attractive next to her, that his behavior, he seemed aloof to people, or he seemed not happy, or they were picking up on the fact that he didn't have any chemistry with Ann Curry.
Yeah, you can't always hide your emotions, and we saw in his interview this morning, they're trying to, they seem a bit desperate, trying to do things a little bit differently. They had the Jerry Sandusky interview. I mean, Joe, if you were in Matt Lauer's shoes right now, his numbers seem to be in the tank and continue to fall. What advice would you have for Matt? How do you move on from here? Right.
Well, I think that he's somebody that's not used to, being kind of transparent in the way he interacts with the media. And he's in a moment right now where people don't quite trust what they see on the screen. So he has to kind of figure out how to rebuild trust with viewers. I don't know what that would mean, but I think that he has to somehow convince people that he's real.
Well, trust with viewers, but also there's this chemistry that's so important among co-hosts. Savannah Guthrie's now there. She seems to be well-liked, at least liked better than Matt Lauer right now. I mean, how important is it for him to show that he can work well with her, that he likes her? Does he even like her?
Yeah, well, I think he probably likes her, yes. I mean, these people don't necessarily have like personal relationships when they're not on these shows. I think that's one of the illusions that these shows create. But they probably need to figure out that chemistry. That's what they're trying to do right now. And as the producer of the show said, he can't really create chemistry. He can only create opportunities for chemistry. And in a way, they have to figure that out on the air in real time every morning. Like, how are they going to make this relationship kind of spark?
Well, and we talk often about the on-air talent because that's what we see. But what about the producers behind the scenes? I mean, how much shuffling was going on among some of the top producers of the show?
Well, they changed the producer, since the Ann Curry debacle, and they've got some new management in there. I mean, the sort of backdrop to all of this, and I think it's very important to note that, a couple of years ago, Comcast bought NBC from General Electric and created all kinds of reshuffling and lack of focus and different focus on the corporate level and the management level. And so I feel like they're still suffering from that. They're still trying to figure out their way. And the producers that are in there now, the executive producer has been at the show for years. He's a veteran. And they're doing lots of cosmetic changes. They're trying to shape and reshape the show and pulling ideas from the other morning shows, frankly. And this summer,
the other morning shows, clearly GMA has been doing really well. CBS seems to be inching up as well. I mean, who's going to come out as the most victorious in the end of this? I mean, is GMA going to hold their number? Do you think the Today Show, assuming they keep Matt Lauer, can rebuild the trust of the American viewers? Is there hope there? Can CBS actually come through and surprise us all?
Well, I think the Today Show is going to have a hard time coming back. I think Good Morning America will be number one for the foreseeable future. And the reason is because in morning TV, the changing the way things happens at a very glacial pace. I mean, look how long it took Good Morning America to catch up to the Today Show. I mean, it was a very long slog for them to get there, and it required the Today Show to kind of trip. So I think we'll be seeing more or less what we're seeing for the foreseeable future. I will note this, that the Today Show is done a little bit better in the demographic of the younger demographic. They're performing better in that area. But just in general, it's very hard to gain 800,000 viewers overnight. It takes a long time.
And Joe, it's hard to gain the respect and trust of viewers once you've lost that. And I feel like Matt Lauer's in the toughest position of all here. Right.
Well, that is his biggest challenge, is how to kind of reinvent himself for his audience. And it may not be a skill that he has, because he's been, riding on his talent for a long time, and he has to kind of come up with a new talent, which is how to reinvent himself with his audience and regain their trust. Whether that's possible, I don't know. It may require changing venues for him at some point.
I'll tell you who probably goes to bed saying, "I told you so," is Ann Curry. She seems to be the one that ended up the best out of all of them.
Right, and she's been seen as like a martyr, kind of coming, phoenix rising from the ashes of the Today Show. And, she's, if you read my story, you'll see that she's kind of let them sort of flap in the wind. She's not really come out to actively help repair the image that she was done wrong. She has not said anything.
Which, Joe, I think goes to show how hurt she probably was.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's real. I mean, I think her pain was real. She was very upset. She didn't feel like she was treated right. And, somebody just tweeted a moment ago to me that I thought, is not inconsequential. 70% of morning show viewers are women. And this was like a whole bunch of men who kind of all, appeared to kind of remove her as a collective decision. And, it doesn't look good. So I think the viewers pick up on that, that there's something not right about that. Now, she may not have been great for that job, and that's also true. So they were in a tough spot.
Well, a tough spot. It's the cover of your magazine. It's probably not going to make their life any easier. But Joe, thanks so much for being on here and discussing it with us further. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you as well for joining us. And check out what's coming up next in our green rooms, courtesy of Cadillac.